It's time again for another new product roundup and giveaway where me and my co-host Blunty. How are you doing, Blunty?
Good, Joshua. How are you?
I'm doing good. We are going to run down the new products in FPV that have come out in the last month or so and just give you our off-the-cuff thoughts on them. Just try to keep you up to date on some of the hot new stuff that's coming out. And then at the end, we're going to do a giveaway. We're going to pick one of these items, and we're just going to give some of them away to a bunch of people. But we'll talk more about that at the end of the video. Why do they always put giveaways off to the end, Blunty?
I don't know, something about probably like, making you want to watch the video. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, right. But hopefully the whole video is going to be amazing. If at any point you do start to feel a little bit antsy, there's links down in the video description to all the products we're talking about, and there's chapter markers in the timeline that you can scroll between. So just consume the content however you like, or just leave it playing in the background. The algorithm loves it. Okay, Let's get started though, Blunty. We're going to start this month with what might be the hottest product around for some people, and that is this Caddx Vista. Now, if you don't fly DJI, you don't give a damn about this, but these are really hard to get. And some people are even buying, like, the only way you can get a Caddx Vista these days is to, like, buy a Caddx Nebula Nano, which kind of nobody wants. And then you just, like, some people have said, well, just throw the camera out or set it aside, and we'll try and get a different camera somehow. And if that's you, then you can get the Caddx Vista by itself and try and source the cameras separately by buying it from, well, it's in stock at Pyro-Drone, and that's why we're mentioning it.
Yeah, I think if you need it, it's there. I think this is good for those people. It's been in stock for a little while too, so I think maybe they have a decent little supply of them.
Yeah, it's weird because, of course, you smash the camera. If you're going to break anything, you break the camera. And the Vistas are pretty freaking durable, unless sometimes people rip the UFL off. But people have said, I've seen spare, like, Nebula Pro. I've seen spare Nebula Pros in stock some places. If I only had a VTX, well, maybe this is your chance. Anyway, there you go. Moving on to the next thing.
From that, let's move on to some new products from TBS. TBS has released a couple new things in the last week or two here. They've got the Ethix Mambo and the TBS Mambo, the different versions of their new integrated tracer full-size radio. I think we heard rumors about this for a long time, man. It's finally been released.
Yeah, they finally put out a full-size radio to complement the Tango 2. A little bit of a controversial decision to put tracer into this instead of Crossfire. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm definitely not too much of a fan of that. I'll say, it's a little strange for me to make that decision, for sure. Obviously, they feel like it was a good reason to do that. But, if you compare that to, like, the other product we're looking at, which is actually the TBS Crossfire 69, the 69 comes in Crossfire or Tracer version, which they seem to realize, like, hey, you could pick. You can have either one. So I don't know if it's just a limitation in production or what the reasoning was, but I don't know. I would be looking a lot harder at this radio if it wasn't integrated tracer, if it was integrated Crossfire.
Now, the argument that I think TBS made was that a whole lot of people out there already have a Crossfire module, and they might want to switch over to the Mambo, at which point now they're getting tracer for free, basically. But anybody who already owns the Tango 2 doesn't have a Crossfire module, and anybody who is buying this as like their first radio, if they wanted Crossfire, they would have to pay another $60 for the micro module. So still fairly competitive at a price of $140 for the base one.
Yeah, that's not too bad, and it is like they say full throw Hall gimbals, so it seems okay, and it'll end up being the same as Tango 2. For those of you that don't know, they run Freedom TX, which is a branch of OpenTX, and they'll be mainlined into OpenTX fairly soon here, hopefully. So,
yeah, whenever OpenTX 2.4 comes out.
Soon. There's a whole thing, but I hear it's any week now is the plan. They're just going to mainline it anyway now that they have Mixer Sync. So,
oh, I see. So maybe it'll be like 2.3.14.
Yeah,
it
something
won't be
like
2.4.
that.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, that'll be good because people currently who have the Tango 2, they can't use OpenTX Companion, for example, to back up their models. and they can't like download a custom nightly build of OpenTX if there's some feature they want. They can only use Freedom TX, and once it gets mainlined, that'll be pretty exciting. I think the build quality on this radio, the Tango 2, is excellent build quality. So I think we can assume the build quality will be very good, and at a price of $140, I think we can. That looks like a pretty good value if this is what you're looking for. What about the Crossfire 69? So this is a video transmitter and receiver in one 20mm form factor. Is that right?
Yeah. I think this makes a lot of sense. This is similar to like the Immersion RC combination we've looked at before. The Ghost Hybrid, I think.
A hybrid, that's right.
Yeah, they do the similar thing. I think it's really good for the racers. I think there's a lot of racers who TBS has pushed Tracer into, which is good. A lot of them are enjoying Tracer that I've spoken to. And for those people, I spoke to somebody who ordered 8 of these at their local vendor as soon as they were announced. So for the racers, they're really excited to see these. And it's cool to see these for them, I would say. I don't know how much everybody else will be using these, but I'll say the other cool thing is like, a popular thing to do is use those. I think they're the white noise boards. They're like the combination
those little cradles.
Yeah, they're like a cradle where you can mount it on a toothpick, like a 25 by 25, I think, and then you solder on the TBS VTX and the Crossfire Nano or the Tracer Nano, and then you have a similar setup in a similar form factor, but you've got it soldered together. So.
I'm looking at that right here. In fact, I believe they've started shipping these for free when you buy a Unified Nano. I bought a Nano recently, and this came with it. So this is basically giving you the same functionality as these 69 boards, but without any additional soldering. And I think that is the big advantage. These products aren't out yet, but I've talked to people who have been building with the Ghost Hybrid, and the two things they say are, number one, it speeds up your build because it's just a fewer solder joints to do, and it just makes the build a little more compact. Anytime you've got two things combined into one, there's always the question of if one gets damaged, then you have to replace them both. But I mean, at a price of $50, that's not that much more expensive than a TBS VTX. Some of them.
I was going to say, and I just want to mention, I think this is like a full Pro 32 on this thing. It's not like the Nano.
Right.
Like they've integrated into it, so it's definitely like it's kind of better than you could build before. I think Trappy said up to 1 watt on these based on like heat. I think they're kind of gambling on the heat there, but pretty cool that they're letting you get as much as you can out of it. So
basically it'll start at 1 watt, and then as it heats up, it'll go down. But presumably it will do better than Nano, which I think maxes at 400 milliwatts.
Yeah.
Maybe then there's a tiny one that does 600 anyway. So if this appeals to you, there are links down in the video description, and we're looking right now at the TBS website, but there's links to a whole bunch of stores. We try and cover most of the major stores. Well, in the USA, there's too many stores worldwide to cover all of them. But there's links down below, and we're just going to sort of pick one store for each of the products and show it, just to avoid things getting too cluttered. So if your favorite store doesn't get shown, there's probably a link down below, and hopefully nobody will get offended that we showed one store and not the other, especially the people who work for those stores. Blunty, next up, we're going to look at this Ztag product. Now, Rotor Riot has had a couple of videos out about this for a while, but I don't think we've mentioned it on the new product roundup. What do we got going on here?
Yeah, so Ztag is basically a fairly simple to use system. You basically mount it to the front of your quad with a 3D print, and in your camera view, you get some LED lights, and then you also get a little, basically an LED sensor on the front of this that automatically shoots every so often, and you kind of set those settings. And then you basically fly around and try to dogfight with other people, trying to do the best you can to get all the other people down. So
yeah. What's cool about this to me is that it just mounts on your aircraft. You can do it with drones. You can do it with planes. It doesn't require any integration. It just takes power, and you just basically put it in front of your camera, your FPV camera, so you can see it. And that means that there's no soldering to your flight controller. There's no reconfiguring your UARTs. None of that. You just basically stick it to the front of your drone and go. And they played this at Rotor Riot has an episode about it, of course, and they also played it at Rampage, and it was pretty freaking popular. If you ever
Yeah.
played Drone Combat, it's basically like that, but in real life.
Yeah. Also, I think Johnny Five just did a video with some people doing that as well. So he said they had a blast. They did like 3S on 6S quads or something like that.
Yeah, that's the thing. I wondered about when I first saw it was our quads are so fast and maneuverable, you'd think you have zero chance of dogfighting them. But what they do in Drone Combat is they give you an X-class quad in the simulator, and it's slower and easier to shoot down. And that's what I've heard people are doing in real life is just run 3S batteries on 6S quads. Or you could use a throttle limit, I suppose, but then you'd need to set it up in software.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Pretty cool.
that is available. Links down below.
And in the same vein, a little more complicated and a little more involved is FPV Combat. We've talked before about the VAS system Ace Combat in the same world here. And that uses like PWM modulation changes to like mess with your servos and things while you're flying. It uses like infrared LEDs to shoot at the other plane, at the other receiver. And then it also has LEDs to indicate, similar to the Z, like what your health is and that sort of thing. So this new system, FPV Combat, is kind of like the dig in everything sort of system. So it's kind of an integration to say like, hey, what are all the pieces you might want? Let's try to integrate as many of those as we can easily in the system. So this will do very similar to the VAS system where you can integrate your PWM receiver. You have your PWM stuff that you mess with on the output. This will also let you pass through the camera to your VTX and get you an OSD on there. This will let you integrate a 433 megahertz receiver that you can also buy. And that'll let you communicate with the other FPV combat systems in the air. So you can have like teams and they can do like life communication and health and stuff remotely for the OSD that it also displays. You can hook up LEDs just like the other systems. They even have like a high and low power shot features and so all kinds of stuff.
So it sounds like this is a little fancier system than the Ztag system, but also a little more integrated. You're going to kind of build it into your drone as opposed to or just slapping it on the front.
Yeah, and yeah, for sure. You can play this similar to the Ztag system or the VAS system. This actually has like its own. There's a setting in here, probably why it's being sold on VAS's website. There's a setting in here where they've worked together so that you can switch it over, and then it works just like the VAS system. So it's another piece of that system. So if you've got a couple planes already on the Ace Combat system, then you can put a couple things on the FPV Combat system, and they can play together in the same mode. So.
All right. Well, that's a really cool thing to see sort of taking over, or maybe not taking over, just coming out.
Yeah.
Blunty, I think as long as we're talking about drone sports, there's actually another product I want to go to. This is the LDARC Flyball FPV drone, and I think a lot of people, when they first see it, are going to go, what the heck is the purpose of this? I've seen enclosed drones like this used for like inspections, but that's not what's going on here. I think this is intended for drone soccer, which is they play this game in a netted cage where you try and fly your drone through a goal. You're not literally kicking the drone. That's not what it is. Is that? Do you agree?
Yeah, as far as I know, that's kind of the idea. So we've talked about it on the news before a little bit, but basically, there's a drone soccer league that started in the U.S. That's here. We've got a location here in Denver. I've actually played a little bit. And that's actually iFlight is doing those balls. That'll be them sponsoring that. So that's actually a different size than these. So originally, this sport was played in South Korea with totally different size drones. And my understanding is LDARC makes those drones over there, or at least has a hand in those. So they brought a drone over here, the one we were just looking at, the flyball, but it's a little bit different than the iFlight ball, and it actually doesn't fit what the spec will be, from my understanding, for the league. So basically,
so this drone is intended for drone soccer, but it's sized for the overseas standard, and the American standard uses a different size enclosure, and this actually isn't regulation to play.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the same as the overseas standard. I just know, as far as I know, it's not the one that fits here. Also, the ones here are not FPV. They're LOS only and that sort of thing. So, from my understanding, LDARC is aware of that, and they are making some changes to produce a ball that's the right size. If this is that one, that's I don't believe it is. This could be that one. But as far as I know, this is the wrong size, and they'll eventually release one that will work with drone soccer so you can play it in the league. But either way, if you just wanted to mess with friends or something, or you just want to fly a little ball around that you can't wreck very easily, it has a camera in the front of it.
I mean, I'm thinking to myself, what's if you wanted to play drone soccer and this isn't regulation, so then you wouldn't be able to like play this, then what is it for? And I guess you could still make an argument that it's kind of fun. I mean, it's completely enclosed, unlike a Cinewhoop where you do have prop guards, but if you like crash upside down or something, you could still get props obstructed. Seems like this has very, like, you're basically always going to be able to fly this home.
Yeah, this is also, like you mentioned inspections, but like I think like this would be really good for inspections. Like if you're doing HVAC and somewhere like even sort of commercial, and you could like put this in the duct and then just put LEDs on the front of it and fly it down the duct. Like that might actually
theoretically.
Yeah, that might actually be fairly useful. And you can't, you wouldn't really lose it because it could turtle itself back upright. So
yeah, even if it crashes or you hit the wall. Well, it'd be interesting to see somebody try that. Of course, we haven't flown these and we don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure that you should take this as an endorsement, but it's an interesting product. Next up, we've got some new expressLRS receivers. Blunty, I've been covering expressLRS a lot on my channel, and I know you're also big into it. Have you moved to expressLRS for your main receivers on your quads?
Yeah, all my main quads are flying expressLRS, and actually, when I flew Whoop Wars, I took bronze in my division, and I won it with expressLRS EP1 on my B-Brain brushless. So.
Oh, yeah. So for more information about what expressLRS is and how to get into it, I'll put some links to my videos. But the gist of it is it's an open source receiver protocol. And it used to be, if you wanted to do this, you basically, you might have to solder up your own receiver, which not everybody wants to do. Or you could flash it onto a FreeSky receiver, which not everybody has or wants to do. Well, Happy Model for a while has been making expressLRS modules and receivers. And now there is another company, Naminmo. Yeah, I've never heard of them. At least Happy Model I've heard of. Do we know anything about Naminmo?
All I can tell you is they have been very involved in the community trying to make sure everything is correct and getting this prepared. I've seen them very heavily over in the expressLRS Discord and talking to the guys over there, making sure that the hardware is correct. So I will say that like I haven't flown any of this, and I don't know that anybody who's had this in hand, but I know all the guys who were helping them make sure this was developed correctly seem to think this is going to be good stuff. So as you can see, it's like built in. It's like they're large modules, and it's because they have fans built in, I believe, to make sure they're well cooled.
Yeah. On some of the expressLRS hardware, like if you flash expressLRS to a FreeSky R9 module, you can't go over, I think it's 250 milliwatts.
300, I think, something like that. Yeah, 250, 300.
You have to install a fan because it overheats.
Yeah.
Yeah, whereas these seem like they're coming with even the Happy Model module doesn't come with a fan, actually.
Yeah, and actually the Happy Model module like comes loose, and there's like a kind of crappy 3D printed case that comes with it. So definitely a different offering here, where they've got kind of an actual built module. And then these receivers, I believe, are like more like a Crossfire or like a Tracer or a Ghost Nano size, and the 2.4s will have ceramic antennas. So.
Oh, gotcha. Now, are they making a version with the UFL connector, or is it only ceramic antennas for the 2.4s?
So far, I haven't seen a UFL version of those. They might. But
Flash TX versus Nano?
So they're calling the 2.4 is the Flash, and the 915 is the Voyager, which I kind of like that they're giving them a name because sometimes this stuff gets a little confusing.
All right. Well, I guess you might not want that ceramic antenna for certain situations, for if you want the most possible range, or some people have said there are durability issues with the ceramic antennas. I feel like that's going to depend heavily on how you mount it. How's that been for you?
Yeah, I can't see like, to me they're way more durable. Like, because if you, it's very uncommon for me to hit my receiver onto something. That's what I would say.
That's what I've always wondered about. Like it seems like they should be very durable.
Yeah, versus an antenna, even a 2.4 antenna, like has a chance to get chopped or pulled or rip a UFL off or something. I mean, I've been pretty happy with the durability and the range. I mean, there's a couple of videos. If you don't totally encase this thing in carbon, there's people going over 3 kilometers on 500 hertz packet rate at 100 milliwatt.
Yeah.
On the ceramic antenna, so they can definitely push still some range. I think for any park flyers and stuff, I think this is fine. If you're actually trying to do any distance, I think you want to get something with the UFL and actually put a real antenna on it.
Okay. All right. Well, we're looking forward to that. At the end of the day, the build quality of the hardware, you know, you only know that after you sell some of them, a few thousand of them, and then you start hearing reports. So fingers crossed that it's good build quality and it stays good. But it's very good to see more vendors picking up Happy Model, picking up expressLRS.
Is there a max power listed? Just real quick, I'm just curious. It's a big fan there.
Look. I mean, you think they'd do 1 watt? Didn't they say 30 dBm? I think it said 30 dBm, 1 watt.
Oh yeah, transmitting power less than 30. Okay.
Oh, so, for 915. Oh, that's the receiver. Here we go. For the 900 megahertz, it's 30 dBm, 1 watt, and also the 27 dBm. Yeah, so a little
500 milliwatt, right?
Yeah, 500 milliwatt, and that's plenty for expressLRS.
Yeah, I think that's more than most of the other modules. Like I think my DIY module is 300. I think the Happy Model modules are 300. So right. Next up, we've got Gemfan, the 5.21 inch I Love You prop. This is a prop they worked with Kebab FPV on a little bit. I guess we'll find out if we love this prop. What do you think about this prop?
Well, apparently they call it the I Love You prop because the numbers 521 in Chinese sound like the words I love you. So cute. I think whenever Bob Ruge comes up with something, I think you can assume it has been meticulously researched to the point of insanity. And so let's just take a look at what Bob says about this prop, and we could probably take his word for it. The goal is to have higher cruising speed with more efficiency without losing too much response. The larger disc size of 5.21 inch also provides improved handling for today's 5-inch quads that are usually around or beyond 650 grams. So it sounds like what he's doing is he's going for a larger prop diameter. And as we know, as you gain prop disc size, you gain a lot of thrust and efficiency for a relatively small amount of disc size. So we've seen 5.1 inch props before. Now we've got a 5.25 inch or 5.21 inch.
Yeah, this actually makes a lot of sense to me that you as you scale up in weight, you're going to push that disc up, Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And you can just nudge that disc up as you nudge your weight up.
Exactly. And nudge being the key word there. In the past, we had 5-inch props and we had 6-inch props. And if you had a 600 gram or a 650 gram 5-inch quad, maybe that was pretty good. But if you had a 750 or maybe an 800 gram 5-inch quad, it was overweight for its thrust. And so now you go up to 6-inch, but there's no reason that the prop has to move in increments of 1 inch. That maybe if you're going to go up just a little bit in your weight, you go up just a little bit in your prop size. And that seems to be what's going on here.
Yeah. I'm interested to see, people get their hands on these and see where everybody likes these.
There's also a 5236 version, which is slightly higher pitch if you are one of those thrusty guys. Recommended for, he says 2306, but I have a feeling that you're going to want a good, strong motor to be able to spin this prop with authority. We know you can run 6-inch props on 2306, but you're not going to get the responsiveness of a larger motor. So it's only an extra 1/4 inch though, so we'd probably be all right. Well, here we've got another new prop from Gemfan, and I have to tell you, so this is the SL5130 and this is the SL5125. Here, let's put them side by side. I have to tell you, I am not a fan of these props. I haven't flown them. My quibble with these props is that they are the T-mount. And my experience with this style of mount on 4-inch and 3-inch has been that they tend to break at the hub more than a standard hub because of these thin parts right here, thin part right here. And on a 4-inch or a 3-inch, you need T-mount props. It's worth it. But on a 5-inch, I just wish it wasn't a T-mount because I just don't think T-mount props have any business on 5-inch quads. I don't know. Am I out of line?
I could see where you're coming from with that, but I don't know. I also think there's a trend, where people have been doing the the smaller, flatter motors or the different sizes, and there are a lot of T-mounts in those sizes. We've seen quite a few of them in the last few months of the news. So I think there's a place for them, and I think there's probably a demand for the 5-inch to do that. So as long as they don't have a major issue with them, I think that's probably okay. I know the people I know who fly the mess out of them and have these issues have not so far had any hub breaks on these. So hopefully they're going to work out pretty well. Also, I think there's still a decent amount of plastic there, though.
Yeah, just a little. I think they're just a little more likely to break at the hub than a standard one. Maybe I'm being too picky. What about setting that aside? So it's a 5.1-inch prop. We've got a 3.0 pitch and a 25 pitch. So they're fairly low pitch. I guess they're tailored towards freestyle.
Yeah, I think they're
not so much for racing.
I think the goal here is to be super light.
Yeah, looks like it.
So weight, 3 grams with the adapter and 2.8 without the adapter. So definitely quite a light prop.
So presumably we're going for an ultra lightweight 5-inch build is the goal with these props. You probably wouldn't want to be running this on, like a 650 gram quad with a GoPro, but maybe more of a 500 gram 5-inch or less.
Or like a 5-inch toothpick or for sure. Yes. This is much more of that direction, I think. I think if you do fly this, you're just not going to get a lot of punch on these. If you fly them on a normal, like a more regular quad, or if you do, you might want to just be careful because they're very light. So I don't know about durability on a larger quad.
Yeah, they don't. They also don't have the same wide cord, I think is the word, as some of the other freestyle props we've seen. So they're light. They're probably very responsive, especially on a higher kV motor, but they're not going to be super punchy or super durable. So, all right, well, somewhere out there's a build for these props. I'm well on record as disliking 5-inch ultralights. So let's see here. How about these? We got a 4-inch and a 3.5-inch Blunty. What? Wait a minute. No. What? No, 4.5-inch?
Yeah. So I think kind of in the same vein we discussed earlier with the micro stepping or whatever you want to call it between the sizes. This is a little more in between, but I think they're just trying to get some options for people who want to try those middle sizes. Maybe you've got a 4-inch build or that's a little heavy, or a 5-inch build that's a little light, and you can fit these props into that build. I don't know. It's kind of an interesting concept that they're, especially the 4.5. I think that's something I've never seen. So,
yeah, I'm wondering what frame. I mean, if you had a 4-inch frame, could it even run this prop, or is this going to be run on a lightweight 5-inch frame? Is the first question. Would it even fit?
I would guess most 4-inch frames are not going to fit this. It probably will be 5. And now that I think about it, I guess we've seen 4.8 props on 5-inch,
like the Johnny FPV Azure. I think 4.8.
Yeah, I think that's about the lowest I think I've seen. So.
Yeah, I think that I would wonder. I mean, obviously, Gemfan didn't make this prop without an application in mind. And obviously we haven't done any research before recording this. That's not the style of the show. We're just off the cuff. But I would application of this would be, because a typical 4-inch build, like with a 2004 motor, a 4-inch freestyle build around 350 grams, this might be a great fit for that. A little more thrust than a 4-inch prop would give, but it's not going to fit on the frame. And a 5-inch build, like a lightweight 5-inch, I think why would you give up that 1/2 inch of disc? I don't know the answer.
If you scroll down, do they have anything in the description there? Curious.
No, just says a new choice to pick from.
They have the wrong description. They have the 5236 there. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, let's just see if we can find any reference. No, it's too new. It's too new. All right. Well, somewhere out there's an application for this prop, but we don't know what it is. The 3520 I feel a little differently about, because there is a new crop of 3.5-inch frames, and I think there's a clear advantage. There's a clear slot between 3-inch builds and 4-inch builds where 3.5-inch actually makes a lot of freaking sense. Especially if you're trying to get sub 250, a 4-inch can be done, but it's hard and it's easier. It's easy on a 3-inch, and 3.5 might be the perfect size for sub 250. So here I'm really happy to see another 3.5-inch option, because there haven't been a lot of them until now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, basically agree with all that.
And then lastly, last prop we've got in this month's roundup is the Ethix P4. And Blenty, I'm not actually sure I'm clear. So there's the Ethix S line and the P line. The S 2, 3, and 4. And now we've got the P 2, 3, and 4. What's the difference between them?
Yeah, so the S2 or the S3, 4, and 5 are the S3 is the watermelons, and those are like a 5 by 3, 4, I think, pitch by 3, and then you have the S4, which are the lemon limes, which are 5 by 3, 7 by 3. Then you have the S5s, which are the black ones, which are the 5 by 4, 1, I think, by 3, somewhere in there, like so there's step ups within the 5-inch. So the P line,
just going to higher pitch basically for each one.
Yeah, so the P line started. The P3 is the peanut butter jelly props are 5.1 by 3 something. So it's like 3.4, 3.7, somewhere in there by 3. And then they also released now the P4, the Candy Cane, and the Candy Cane props are going to be 5.1 by 3, or sorry, 5.1 by 4 by 3. So little meatier on the pitch and on the disc size than an S4 for sure.
Gotcha. So the S's are 5-inch, the P's are 5.1-inch, and then they step up in pitch. The Ethix line being Mr. Steele's chosen props, he's never gone for ultra high pitch like a 5x5 or a 5x7. He always goes for lower pitch and wants smoothness and responsiveness. So it's notable that the P4 is currently the highest pitch and largest of the Ethix line, except it's only like a 5x4 prop, which, that used to be a low pitch freestyle prop.
Yeah, let me double check. I think it's like right in line with the S5. Yeah, so presumably if we ever get a P5, the P5 will be pitchier than anything they've released.
Okay. Well, I, for one, am looking forward to which other two-tone foods Mr. Steele comes up with. I heard him once. He talked about this once, and he said people are always giving him suggestions. Somebody suggested ketchup and mustard, and he said, "You know why he said they couldn't do that?
McDonald's colors. I'm gonna guess.
McDonald's colors. Yes, exactly. Can't do ketchup and mustard. Be McDonald's."
Actually, before we switch over, I think we should look at one more prop. There's a new doll prop, the Cyclone T5139.5 freestyle racing prop from DALRC, and I know what you might be thinking. Like a new prop from DALRC, okay, but it's actually, I really like this profile. I think it's really awesome, and I've heard from quite a few people that they really like this prop. So
yeah, it's been DALRC Cyclone used to be the go-to inexpensive prop. It wasn't as kind of refined a design as some of the others, but it was durable and it was cheap. And I feel like either Cyclones got more expensive or other props got less expensive, because every time I've tried to cross shop, like you could buy a Gemfan or an HQ prop for the same price as the dolls. Now that's true here, but maybe this is like I've also been hearing, probably from the same people you have, that this is a pretty good prop. I don't really know anything about how it flies, though. Do you have any idea?
Yeah, not too much. I think this is where they're like pushing into the, hey, we're making normal props, like we should compete at the same level. So, I think that's definitely where they're placing this prop.
Well, it definitely is a unique blade profile. I don't think I've seen that exact blade profile anywhere else.
I agree.
5.1 by 4 or 5.1 by 395. That's a pretty solid choice for freestyle and racing.
Yeah, so totally different profile, and obviously, like, manufacturers have the different pitch, like choices and profiles and stuff. But specs wise, looks similar to the Ethix that we just looked at. So.
Yeah, the profile's totally different, but yeah. And if you buy 30 of them, they come down to $2 a set. Although I don't think I'd buy 30 of them until I knew they were good. Yeah,
Pyro with the bulk prop discounts. If you don't know. Yeah, those are great.
So. Well, Blunty, next, let's take a look at some motors. And we're going to start out with this one. Here's the first one we're going to look at this month. This is the iFlight Xing-E, which you might say, well, Xing-E's been out forever. That's iFlight's budget line. But this is the Xing-E Pro. And I'm kind of confused by this. Xing-E run about $15. This one's about $15. And they have... they're not quite the same specs. Like, I don't think they have a titanium shaft. But I can't tell what the difference is of the Xing-E Pro compared to the Xing-Es. What did they change?
Yeah, I'm not sure either. And also we have Xing-E, Xing-E Pro, and Xing, right? So
right.
Presumably there's a reason this is an in-between.
Yeah, we can see some of the things that the Xing-E line gives up. So, for example, 6061 aluminum instead of 7075, so it's softer aluminum. It has a steel shaft instead of a titanium shaft. I believe the Xing motors have a titanium shaft. They have everything. It's a unibell, though. A one-piece bell. That's really impressive on a motor of this price. Presumably, they've upgraded it in some way compared to the Xing line. I don't actually know what that is, though. But here's a 2306 iFlight Xing motor for about $16, and it's available. It's in stock, so that certainly should be on a budget shopper's list.
And next up in motors, we've got Pyro-Drone's new Hyperlite 2005.5 lightweight racing motor line, and some different KVs for your different choices and sizes.
Yeah, they got 3122 kV, presumably for 3S. 2600 kV for 4S, and 2022 kV ostensibly for 5S, but racers will probably run it on 6S, and then 1722 kV for normal people on 6S.
Yeah. And these are kind of the, what we're talking about before. The T-mount is so popular currently because you don't have all that. I guess you're losing the stator, so you're saving the weight on the stator or the shaft, rather.
Yeah, you're making the whole motor presumably a little more compact. Although I don't know how the actual motor shaft differs from, like, on a standard motor with a standard shaft. The whole motor shaft isn't that thick. It's just the top part.
Right.
So I don't know if the actual shaft is any thinner, but certainly you've got some weight here at the top. This reminds me a lot of a 2004 motor, like you would run on a 4-inch prop or maybe a 5-inch, but I think 24 inches is a sweet spot. And it makes me wonder, is this designed for like a heavier 4-inch or maybe even a 4.5-inch build? Or is this for 5-inch, lightweight 5-inch racing?
I don't know. I think it's definitely quite a bit more stator volume than the 2004. So maybe you could squeeze on a 5, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, it's a ton more stator volume. I'm not going to do the math, but you've added a 1.5 millimeters of height. That's a lot. 20 grams of weight. They say it's a racing motor, so interesting. I don't know anybody racing 5-inch on T-mounts, that's for sure. But
if you're racing 5-inch on T-mounts and you like this motor, let us know in the comments.
Next up, we have what I think will be a product that's going to get us both in trouble. If not with our fans, if no one else. This is the new Ethix Mr. Steele Silk 2306 motor V4. Where do we want to start with this motor, Blunty?
I don't know the best place to start. Basically, I'm just going to say, like, my experience with the Stout and Silk lines, the Ethix motors, has been that they are an excellent performing motor until they hit something. Unfortunately, like, there's a lot of bell replacements, and it's not just me. It's a lot of people I've spoken to, a lot of people I've seen, a lot of new pilots that buy these motors. And so for those reasons, I'm just not a fan. And I actually asked Ethix on Facebook about this, I said, hey, are these going to be similar to the previous motors? Are they, made of like a softer metal? And they basically asked me if I'm going to make my own motor. So to me, that wasn't a great endorsement for like durability on these motors versus the V3. But I'm not 100% sure. So.
Yeah, I feel like nobody can dispute the performance of the stuff that Mr. Steele flies. He's one of the pickiest pilots out there. I think he and Bob Ruge are probably tied. The difference being that Mr. Steele finds something he likes and then he uses it for years until he finds something or develops something that works better. And Bob Ruge just is in a constant process of going on to the next thing. But I do look at this $27, $28 motor and I ask myself, Like, why would I buy this instead of like we were just talking about Xing motors? I'm not trying to put Xing on the spot, but 7075 aluminum, titanium shaft, top quality Japanese bearings, just anything you could ask for from a motor on paper. The Xing is there, and they come in around $20, $22. These are $27, $28 a piece. It's just hard to justify that price unless you are trying to emulate Mr. Steele's build exactly, in which case, and I do think like I flew his quad, his ready to fly, and I was like, oh, this is a very good flying quad. So I think the person who's going to buy these is a person who's trying to emulate his build. But if you're not emulating his build and you're just looking for a good motor, I mean, if you want to spend $27 on a motor, the Carrera Toa is amazing motor. You know, is it worth $28? I mean, I haven't bought them, but I don't know if these feel like $28 motors to me.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think I have to agree with you there. It feels like what they're bringing to the table is like some small increase in performance and a logo, like a name and a brand, versus like a Toa turbine or something is bringing like a brand and also like high quality parts and materials, and also like a method for cooling the motor, and like some, at least some like push forward, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on before we get ourselves into too much trouble with our viewers who love TBS and Mr. Steele and are upset that we don't love his motors as much as they do. Instead, let's talk about a whole new motor company, Axis Motors, and we've held off talking about them, and they've been out for a couple months. But you couldn't actually get their motors, so I didn't want to like go out of my way to show them. So tell us about Axis Motors, Blunty.
Yeah, so Axis Motor came out of T-Motor. There's like a couple of people who split off, and they are working on a new line of motors. Axis Flying is the motor company, and they've got quite a few motors out now. Of different sizes. So they've got your typical, your AF227, so your 2207 motors in different KVs. Then they've also got 2203 motors, and they've got 2004 motors. So some different sizes, different options for people. So
the 2207s for 5-inch, the 2004s for 4-inch freestyle, the 2203s for, I kind of don't know. Like that once upon a time, years ago, that was a 5-inch motor, but not anymore. Well, I mean, coming from T-Motor makes good motors, so I guess it just depends on who they poached, right? Who's making the motors. My understanding is they brought the people who know the stuff over, and I've heard really good things from these motors that have gotten out there so far, and the people that are flying them. They are an expensive motor. We just talked about the Ethix motors. Being a $28 motor, and $27.99, and these are $26.50 motor. I would definitely say don't buy more than you want to do to try these. But I've definitely heard from a lot of people these are a good quality motor, so I'm interested to see where these end up landing. Looks like they've got some new technology in here, at least, to try and justify the price. So this is a kind of a shielding inside the motor bell and inside the stator that's designed to help protect the motor from dust and moisture, as well as from shocks. And of course, one of the ways that bearings get damaged is from vertical shocks. Bearings are particularly susceptible to that. Interesting and nice that they're innovating in some way as opposed to just churning out a motor. Here's an O-ring bushing similar to what iFlight does for shock absorption.
Yep.
So it's nice that at least if you're going to pay $27 for a motor, you're getting a motor with something unique in it. Although I have to point out the iFlight motors have that same similar technology, at least for a lower price. But okay. I guess I just sound like I'm a big fan of iFlight. I just feel like they deliver a lot of performance and quality for the price. Okay, last one, Blunty, and I don't know if either of us knows a lot about this, but FETTEC has a motor. I thought they only made flight controllers and ESCs, but apparently they make motors. And as near as I can tell, they've made a 2004 motor. And do they make any other motors?
I don't
like at all?
I don't think they have. Yeah, they have that 1303. I think we looked at this a while back. It's 1303, like a toothpick style motor.
But so they don't have a 2306.
Mambo.
2004, 2104, 1303.
I don't think they have standard motor sizes, from my understanding, but
So what's their game?
I'm gonna make it some motor. I don't know.
You don't
Maybe
know.
it's based on
You don't
pilot
know
demand.
either.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm happy to see a new 2004 motor. You know, the Brother Hobby 2004 are the ones I fly on my Shocker 4-inch, and they're good motors, but they're super lightweight and not very durable. So maybe this one will be more durable. I don't know, but it would be nice if it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says right here. So, perfect. It says right here, Blunty, durable. Well, there you go. I'm buying 10 of them.
There we go.
All right. All right. First frame, Blunty, is this, the FPVCycle Tooth Fairy V2.
Yeah, this is the sequel to the Tooth Fairy V1. This is based on, I think, a lot of work that Kebab FPV has done with Chris Rosser and learning about frame resonance and ways to dampen that.
Yeah, he has integrated halfway through production. We were made aware of a new vibration management technique, so we scrapped the product, redesigned. That's Bob for you. I've retested and restarted production. It has a shim that you can use to put a vibration isolating damper in there. There's a link to one of his videos showing the theory. This is really cool because, especially on these ultra lightweight frames, vibration can be an issue. There's a 3-inch and a 5-inch version if you want to build a lightweight 5-inch. It's designed for the Vista only, right? The Vista is actually integral. I don't know if he's got a picture of this up. The Vista actually goes in the rear and replaces the rear standoffs. So if you're not running Vista, this isn't the frame for you.
Yeah, I imagine you could do standoffs or something in there, but yeah, the goal of this, I believe, is to use the Vista in the back as the standoff for the carbon.
Well, if I was going to build an ultra lightweight 5-inch, this would certainly be up there in my contention, just because, as you know, Bob makes good products. Oh, there we go. There's a picture. And he's got the motors for it, too. So, all right. Well, this is the only other frame in the roundup, Blunty. And I don't know a lot about it. It was just in the new products list from Race Day Quads. It's the RVS Sucker Punch. And the reason I included it is it's a $45 racing-focused frame. That's not the cheapest one you could ever find in the world, but it's down there. It looks like a pretty... Yeah, go ahead.
You might be surprised to learn I did just Google RVS, and these are from our friends that brought us the Yeet Mule, and the Big Yeet RVS is now bringing us the Sucker Punch.
When I first saw the Yeet Mule, I was like, they were like, now there's a new line of 3D prints for the acclaimed Yeet Mule, and I'm like, who is the Yeet Mule? I've never heard of the Yeet Mule. Okay, they're very proud of their frames. $45 for it looks like a. I mean, there's not a lot to say about the design of a frame like this. It's got some standoffs, it's got some arms. But if you're looking for a racing frame for $45, you could probably do worse than the old RVS Sucker Punch.
All right, first up, we're going to do bind and flies, and we've got the Flywoo Hexplorer LR now in HD. I think this is just a new SKU of this with HD. So if you wanted it, now you got it. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And this is a way to get, unfortunately, the Nebula Nano. But
yeah, I've seen that a lot of these bind and flies these days have switched to coming with the Nebula Nano. In fact, I'm not even sure. I have this exact quad on my wall behind me from when I reviewed it. You want to know the difference between this and the quadcopter version? Well, there's a link to the review down in the video description. You can check it out. But now they're all coming with the Nebula Nano because it's the only thing that's in stock because nobody wanted it because it has really bad image quality. But it's a pretty cool hexcopter. Pretty cool. Has some potential compared to the quadcopter if you're carrying a heavier camera or just want a little bit more punch or flight time. Yeah, and now you can get it with DJI built in. This is the Emax Nanohawk. Now this is analog. I'm a big fan of Emax's bind and fly kits for it used to say under $200. These days it's crept up a little bit because of the world being what it is. But for $229, you get everything you need to get into the hobby, including a battery, one battery, a charger, and a few other spare parts, goggles, and a controller.
Yeah. So I think the special thing about this, which I don't know that we've seen before or is new to me, is that they're bundling the Emax goggles and the Nanohawk with a light radio too. And previously, I think one of the biggest complaints about these Emax kits is the controller.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And so, like, while the light radio 2 maybe has some issues, I know the SE and had a couple problems. I would definitely trust it over the Emax controller. So it's neat to see it in a kit like this.
You actually made a really good point there, because I've always said that the beta FPV kit has the controller is really the star of that show, except that sometimes it has bad quality and just dies on you. But I don't know if the Light Radio 2 SE has had that problem, but the Emax has had good quadcopter, decent goggles, bad controllers. So this is actually kind of the best of both worlds.
Yeah, it's interesting to see them put these together, but yeah, it's pretty neat. So not a bad option.
And the Nanohawk flies really well. We've got the T-Motor FT5 Mark II HD. So this one is not coming with the Nebula Nano. This is a 5-inch freestyle bind and fly, or plug and play. You put your own receiver into it. This one is not coming with the Nebula Nano, so that's good. It's coming with the new Caddx Air Unit Lite. Is it, or is it the old Air Unit? Let's take a look. Full-size Air Units. DJI Air Unit just says DJI Air Unit, so we could tell from the camera. For sure.
Yeah, that camera looks like a normal camera, not the micro.
Oh wow! So this is coming with a full-size Air Unit, so you're going to get diversity, a little bit better range. You're going to get the original DJI camera, which I think everybody agrees is the best compared to the Caddx's, and onboard SD card recording.
Yeah.
That's I can imagine how the meeting went for this, Blunty, because the FT5, I'm pretty sure it came with the Vista or analog previously, and they were like, hey, we can't get the Vista anymore. What are we going to do? I know, let's make a longer version of the frame and put the Air Unit in it. That's how I imagine the meeting went. So that's what we got here. Yeah,
I mean, this seems pretty reasonable, for sure. It's cool. It's cool. I wonder how many of these SKUs will go out with the DJI Air Unit, and how many they have, but maybe they still got them. So
it's in stock right now. So I think it competes. Yeah. Oh, hang on.
I just want to see.
Also in stock.
Yeah.
I think it competes with the GepRC Mark IV, which has a full Air Unit version, and I think the Diatone Roma F5 also has an Air Unit version. So those would be the ones to cross shop against. And lastly, we've got this iFlight Mach5 R5. It is a new iFlight bind and fly tailored towards racing. What does that remind you of, Blunty? Does that look like anything familiar?
Yeah, a couple different things. I'm not sure offhand though.
It reminds me of the Switchback, the 533 Switchback. I mean, I guess that may be a little unfair because all racing frames kind of look the same.
Yeah, it's kind of a racing frame with a mohawk, and then it ends up looking like a Switchback.
Yeah, that turtle mode fin. So here's the thing that stands out to me about this one. They put the Xing 2506 motors on it. I think 2506 is overkill for a 5-inch racing quad.
Yeah, that's a lot of motor.
I'm confused by this choice. You could argue that Bob Kebab's 5-inch motor is a 2506 in size, and I fly that. I love that motor for freestyle. But if you look at what every other racer in the world is running, it's basically 2207.
Yeah,
it seems to get the job done.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see. Though I guess I'm going to say I bet a lot of racers aren't buying bind and flies either. So this seems more like a. Hey, do you want to try it out? And then, like you said, maybe the 2507 isn't the best choice for that. So,
yeah, it seems like it's extra weight because those are heavy motors. They're like 38 grams, I believe. So you're gaining like 20 grams compared to a 2207 or a 2306. The other thing is you can get it with DJI or analog. So here's the analog version that we're looking at now. If you want to race DJI, I guess you can. But the DJI version comes with the iFlight Beast all-in-one flight controller, and I'm so suspicious about that for the kind of knocks people are going to take in racing. But maybe I'll be proven wrong.
Yeah. This one, I'll just say this one comes with the Race Cam R1, which I've never heard of. So I'm not sure what the picture quality is going to end up looking like.
Yeah. Surely that's just iFlight OEMing that from somebody. Like, surely it's a Foxeer Predator or a Caddx Vista or something, and they're just OEMing it, I would guess. Sure. But we don't know who that is. So the $315 is that's a perfectly fine price for an analog bind and fly racing quad. That's a perfectly fine price, and iFlight usually makes pretty good bind and flies. I'm a big fan of their Sedora, so I think we could expect that. I just wonder why they didn't put 2207s on it. Like, are the 2506s not selling, and you decided to clear inventory this way? It's a really odd choice.
Next up, we've got the Skyzone Sky04X V2 goggles. We've looked at the Sky04X before, and this is the V2 version of those goggles. And from what I understand, these are basically just the same goggles as the V1, but they have a change in the DVR.
I mean, the Sky04X is a good goggle. There's a lot to like about it. Some people have even said it is like the best analog goggle to get today, which is high praise. But when I heard there was a V2, I think I and a lot of people wondered if they had improved the issues with the RF module firmware, like rolling screen or sync lock problems. Of course, that would be a module update. It wouldn't be a V2 goggle. So I think some people are going to be disappointed that the V2, I mean, it's nice that they gave us 60 FPS DVR, but they're maybe hoping for more. The price didn't seem to change that much, so I guess it's fine. Next up, we've got two controllers, the Radiomaster T8 Pro, and then the iFlight IF8. And it sure feels to me like the IF8 is the exact same controller, just with an iFlight badge on it. So, pick your poison. I recently reviewed these Blenty, and I got to say, the T8 Pro for $88-90, I just don't think it competes against the Jumper T Lite, which is similar in price, but a lot more functional.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you, and I think we've talked maybe privately before just about the fact that the T8 Pro is kind of weird at the price bracket, like you said, for the different other options you can get. But if you wanted it without the screen, the T8 doesn't seem to really be sold anywhere. I wonder if that's because of the iFlight IF8, and that's kind of taken that skew up,
That's interesting. There's supposed to be a non-pro version of the T8 that leaves off the screen and costs $50, and maybe they're just leaving room for iFlight. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Compared to the Jumper T Lite, though, the T Lite has the full 4-in-1 module instead of the CC2500, so it can do all of the multi-protocol protocols. And the T Lite comes with a module bay. You have to install it yourself, but you can use Crossfire, Ghost, etc., whereas the T8 doesn't. I speculate in my review of the T8, and I'll put a link to this down below if you want it. I speculate that the Jumper's price is going to go up once they run out of their current stock. We're in this sort of transitional period right now where people who are sourcing new products and new components have to pay more, and their prices are going up. And the Jumper's price is the same since the day it was released. So today the Jumper is $90 and is way better than the T8, but presumably at some point in the future the Jumper's price may go up to $120, and then maybe the T8 will make more sense.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's interesting. I definitely think it's interesting. The IF8, if you think about it, is really now competing with the Light Radio.
Yeah.
And the Light Radio 2 SC is $45. So at that point, now you have the CC2500, so it does the same thing, basically, FreeSky and Futaba. So now it's basically based on quality. So it'll be interesting to see how that ends up working out.
That's a great point. I would absolutely take the iFlight IF8 over the Beta FPV Light Radio, because the Light Radio, the Light Radio's gimbals are actually really decent for a $45 radio, but the build quality, every time you buy a Beta FPV Light Radio, you freaking toss a coin whether it's going to have a gimbal snap on you or something.
I was going to say, I think that's the issue. It seems like whatever choices they made there, they definitely have some issues with that, like maintaining the gimbal quality over time. They seem to be working well for a while and then just suddenly stopping working or having some internal QC issues. So, and I think that's a beta FPV thing. Unfortunately, that seems to be not crazy for them. So Radiomaster instead is presumably making this behind the scenes and branding iFlight on it. And if that's the case, then I would definitely trust it over the beta FPV Lite radio.
Me too. Radiomaster has a fairly good track record so far of building quality stuff. Yeah. All right. Well, now we finally figured out where this radio sits. Good to know. Next up, let's look at two new chargers that have come out recently, the HOTA F6 and the toolkitRC M6 DAC. The HOTA F6 is a 250 watt, 15 amp, quad channel DC smart charger. And I think quad channel is what really makes this stand out here. Let's full screen this. We'll talk about this one for a minute, Blunty. 4 channels in one charger. That's impressive.
Yeah, this is kind of enough, I think, for a lot of people to not need a balance board.
Like a parallel board.
Yeah, instead of doing that, you can just kind of charge 4 at a time and use this. And then they're all definitely on their own circuit, so they're finishing at different times if you need them to. It's not a bad solution. And 15 amps is quite a bit for 4 batteries.
Yeah, and that's 250 watts per channel. That's not 250 watts split between the 4 channels.
Oh, wow.
So that's actually really respectable.
That's a lot of battery, yeah.
Yeah, so you could charge even big batteries at 1C or more if you care to take the risk. I agree. I mean, you'll see behind me, there's 4 different 2-channel HOTA D6 Duos, my favorite charger for a long time now. So I have 8 channels of charging, but I seldom use all 8 at the same time. 4 channels is going to be enough for most people to keep going. Even if you're flying packs, you could have 4 on the charger. By the time you finish flying one, you got one ready to go. And like you said, you don't have the risk of parallel charging. Just everyone is just plugged in and charging individually, which is going to appeal to a lot of people. $128. That's very good value per channel.
Yeah, for sure. If you've got a DC power supply, I think this is seems like a really good option.
Yeah, that's the catch. You need a separate DC power supply, and 250 watts times 4, you're going to need, if you're going to fully utilize those outputs, you're going to need at least 1,000 watt power supply. So those by themselves, you could make one from like a server power supply for, $30 or $40. But if you buy 1,000 watt power supply, you're going to pay a few $100 for it probably. So definitely have to factor that in. The other one is the toolkitRC M6 DAC. Now, this one has a built-in power supply, so it plugs straight into the wall, doesn't need an external DC supply, and it is 200 watts on AC or 700 watts on DC, and 15 amps, $135. It's $135. That's more expensive than the previous one, and only 2 channels.
Yeah, it has the AC. I assume because it has the AC component. Maybe you're buying that.
Oh yeah. That makes sense.
How many
getting the power supply?
How many watts per channel on that guy?
So it says 200 watts. 200 watts, is that per channel or all up? Where the overview? Precise details? Here we go. Blunty. Charge power. Oh, this says 350 watts. I see.
2.
So it's 350 watts times 2. That's on DC. That's going to be on DC input. That's 700 watts, or 700 watts on synchronous mode, where you combine the 2 channels with a Y adapter.
Okay.
But 350 watts is more than enough for the batteries that are typically used in FPV.
And it also looks like it does a USB-C power. This also has that.
Uh-huh.
Is that on like a separate port so you could charge stuff on a USB-C cable?
I'm guessing so. We could look at we got a USB-C output here.
Okay.
I'm going to guess that 200 watts is for both channels. So you have 100 watts per channel or 200 watts on one channel. I don't see that spec, but I'm going to guess that's what it is. That's still enough to do like a 1C charge on a typical 4S or 6S battery, but probably not if you prefer to charge at 2 or 3 or 4, maybe 5C. This isn't going to cut it, at least on AC. Well, if you do like parallel charging, here's a new product from a fellow you might have heard of, the JB parallel charging board. Have you gotten a chance to take a look at this yet, Blunty?
Yeah, it seems like a interesting, basically a different choice you've made versus your old board. I have some of your some of your old boards. I have the 6S and 4S versions of your old board. So
Yeah, we originally, when we released my parallel charge board, had them in a single voltage each. So if you had 4S batteries, you would buy the 4S board. These days, it used to be most people just had a bunch of 4S batteries, and that was basically it. Nowadays, people have micros, they have 6S, they have 3S. So this one is multi-voltage. It's got XT30 and XT60. Same safety precautions as the other one, but just a little more versatile.
Polyfuses, right? So you've got your polyfuses and a 15 amp fuse per line there, right?
Correct. Yeah. So the polyfuses protect the balance port from overcurrent, and the automotive fuses protect the main line. Parallel charging can never be made completely safe. LiPos can never be made completely safe, but this helps make parallel charging just a little bit safer.
Then so that's available. Also has a LiPo tester on it too, right? So you can plug it in and check in case you plug them in, essentially, right?
Yeah, exactly. So this is a checker. You plug it in and you just check the voltage. And then once you know that the voltage is safe to proceed, you plug in to one of the balance plugs.
All right, next up, we've got the LRT DigiEyes V2 dual patch antenna for DJI. This is another patch antenna solution for the DJI goggles.
Similar to the iFlight Crystal or the Luminaire Axie HD, I guess. I mean, I think you get a little bit more range with these. I think it's well worth having. 11 dB of gain with a beam width of 110 horizontal and 75 vertical. So we'd want to kind of compare that. Let's compare that to the iFlight Crystal. DigiEyes ORT makes very good antennas. They're high quality. They're some of them used to be handmade, I think. I'm not sure if this one is. This one looks a little more industrial. Specifications here. This one, the iFlight Crystal gives 105 degree beam width and 75 degree vertical at 9 dBi. So the ORT is actually higher gain, but wider beam width, which is counterintuitive.
Yeah. Is that because you have less crossover in the center of the beam width or something?
That's what I wonder. They talk about
like if you focus
10 degrees horizontal offset.
Yeah, if you push them out far enough, right? Like you're gonna end up getting higher gain, but in more dense cones, I guess is the best way to say it.
I think they've angled the antennas out slightly, so there's less overlap between the two beams.
Right. But honestly, if the gain is 11, I mean, hopefully, it should still work pretty well for the purpose.
Yeah, I think so. We haven't tested it, but on paper, it makes a lot of sense. It's not quite as compact as the Crystal. Of course, the iFlight Crystal replaces the front plate, so it maintains the profile of the goggles. This is going to stick out a little more. So
you would be able to. I think you'd be able to use these. Well, I guess not. Sort of. Maybe better. You could use these with the DigiAdapter. Maybe you could find a way to fit these on top of them versus like the Crystal. You can't use the DigiAdapter for analog, and a lot of people are using that. So.
Yeah, interesting. If you have analog and you're using the BDI DigiAdapter, these might fit on it. Yeah, that's an interesting point. All right, well, we got just a couple more things to talk about, and then we're going to do the giveaway. SharkBite's got a new video transmitter. Holy crap. I got to say, I did not see that coming. This is the TX5R1, and I'm a little confused about this. It's 20 millimeter mounting, but it's a single board solution.
Yeah, their goal seems to be with this to target racers and aim for durability in racing scenarios. So this is going to be a 200 milliwatt VTX, similar to their smaller VTX previously. And this is going to mount on 20 by 20 and be a little long, and hopefully fit into your racing build so that you can have a secured UFL and you can have a secured MIPI connector, and hopefully you won't rip them off when you wreck, and hopefully it'll be a little more compact and easy for your build. So.
I've seen a picture of one of these being put into I think it was a 533 switchback, and he actually had to have a custom like angled rear standoff to make it fit. Like it was banging against the standoff.
Yeah, in the standard switchback, it barely fits. In a switchback Pro, it does not fit. You have to have an angled standoff, or you would have to turn it sideways, and it would stick out the sides a little bit. So I don't know, whichever you feel about that.
So depending on what racing frame you're running, if it's one of the ultra compact racing frames, this may not fit. But if you're one of those racers who's looking for a SharkBite solution, it's really great that they're focusing on durability That was one of the complaints with the 500 milliwatt unit for sure.
I'm not really sure how to introduce this one because we don't have any other ESCs this week. But I'll tell you, I wanted to make sure this was in the list because this is pretty crazy. I don't know that we often see a 4-in-1 that does this kind of beef on the ESC. This is iFlight's 80 amp 2 to 8S BLE 32 ESC. This is going to be a $200 ESC, but it's going to have 80 amp FETs and it's going to handle 8S. So if you're looking for some kind of crazy beefy, ESC, I'm going to guess this is going to be what you're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times ESCs in this size and voltage category are designed for like beast class 9-inch, 10-inch, 13-inch builds. And usually you're going to end up using something like an APD. APD makes amazing hardware. There's no question, but it doesn't run BL Heli, which some people find, they like to be in familiar, like they like those startup tones. APD, give us startup tones. So this is a standard BL Heli 32 ESC, 80 amp rated 8S, 30 millimeter form factor. I'm not sure I know another 80 amp 8S 30 millimeter. They're usually individual in this size.
Yeah, for sure. I think if this works out and this thing holds up well, does the heat dissipation is proper and all that, I think this is going to be a neat solution for people, because I think if you do, we'd have to look, but comparably, like an APD that handles 80 amps, I'm going to guess is like $80 to $100, and if that's the case, you're going to save quite a bit doing this. I think the last time I priced there was something like that.
Yeah, here's an APD 80F3.
Oh, well, that's not bad.
It runs $45.
Yeah, so we're actually around the same price here.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, I mean, I'm glad I just did a little Google search, but now the big question, Blunty, would be, if you were building something that needed one of these ESCs, would you take the iFlight or would you take the APD? Just gut check.
Yeah, APD. My gut says APD unless I need BL Heli 32 for some reason. And that's just because you're going to split out that heat. And if you lose a FET, you're only going to have to replace one of these, and they're $50 a piece. So,
yeah, bingo. APD, I mean, not to take anything away from iFlight, but APD has a history of making hardware and electronics for these gigantic rigs. And unlike a 5-inch freestyle, if your 13-inch camera drone blows an ESC, you're having a bad freaking day. I think I would trust APD more. But maybe there's an application where you just need a 4-in-1 and a 30 millimeter 4-in-1.
I was going to say, the other thing is, like, a 4-in-1 typically you're doing because of convenience of the build, or you're doing because you don't have room on the arms maybe or something. But I feel like on a quad that you would use this on, you're going to have room on the arms, and you're not going to really be pushing for an easy build because you're going to be building a big quad. So.
Yeah, I wonder if the perfect application for this is some kind of weirdo bonkers 5-inch or 6-inch build, like an 8S 5-inch build or something crazy like that. But $200 for a single ESC. That's the other thing you raised, is when you paid $200 for the ESC, you blow one FET and the whole thing is toast. That's going to really sting. So it better be absolutely bulletproof reliable. Last thing this week, Blunty, nothing major, but this is the Vifly GPS Mate. It is a separate GPS power module for people who are having trouble getting their satellites locked. It's basically a Vifly buzzer, and they're using the battery for the Vifly buzzer to also power the GPS, because sometimes GPS is lock sats faster when there's no interference. Not a lot to say about that. Let's get on to the giveaway and figure out what we're going to give away this month.
I think this month is going to have to be the TBS Mambo. That's the hot product this month, right?
Interesting. I think you're right. I honestly wasn't where my mind was going. But no, obviously the TBS Mambo is the product that most people are excited about this month. The most excited about anytime TBS comes out with a new product that's super, super desirable. So we are going to give away, I'm going to give away 3 of them because I think shipping's going to kill me. We're going to give away 3 TBS Mambo. If you want to know how to enter, down in the video description, at the very bottom of the video description are the instructions for how to enter. There's a Google form you have to click and go enter your name on the Google form. That's how you do it. Don't leave comments. I mean, leave comments, but that's not how you enter the giveaway. And winners will be announced in a community post on my channel and by email to there, and by a pinned comment at the bottom of this, at the top of this video. So if you were wondering, did I win and has Joshua pulled the winners yet? Go look down in the comment section, and if there's no pinned comment there, it usually takes me a little while to pull the winners, Blunty. But yeah, cool. That's a great idea. Oh, and it's time for us to wrap up because Henry has gotten up and he's saying, "Hey, Blunty, you know, what are we doing here?" So
Yeah, why you been on the computer so long?
All right, man. Well, good night to you and good night to Henry. Thank you so much for doing this with me again.
Yeah, take it easy. Good to see you, and always fun to do this. So.
Yeah, definitely. Good night, everybody. Good night. When are you watching this? I don't know. Happy flying, you guys. Do you see this baby? Isn't he cute? Hit the subscribe button. Join my Patreon. Use my affiliate links. Or just keep watching videos. That's better than nothing.
Cuckoo Gaga, subscribe to my daddy.